So welcome, universe, to the first edition ever of Enneatalk. Super exciting. We are just going to dialogue with some amazing people, talk about types. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Thank you to our viewers. It is a big deal to get live and share about someone's type. It talks a lot about your emotions, your fears, a lot of vulnerability. So I kudos to these fine, amazing people. I know and love all of them very well. Huge musicians in the community, nationally, amazing, talented people who I think I've all had the opportunity to share the stage with at some point at one time or another. Really, really wonderful people. So we are just going to go through and introduce everybody. We'll start with Marina. Marina, why don't you share your type and just share a little bit about who Marina is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm Marina Mullins, and I am an Enneagram 3. When I started the journey, I tested as a 5, and after researching it more, I was like, no, I think I'm a 9. And then I was a 9 for a while, and then finally, after a lot of research and stuff, I landed on 3, and I'm pretty secure and agree with that. So
awesome. Tell us about like what you do like as a musician and like just a little snippet.
Okay, so I'm just like all around do anything kind of musician. I teach. We have a music school and we teach private lessons, and I love leading worship, and I've pretty much done that for my whole life. Being a pastor's kid, I grew up with that. So yeah, so I just love music and love to fill my life with any kind of form of that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Marina. All right, Taylor, why don't you talk to us about your type and tell us about Taylor?
Hi, friends. My name is Taylor Reed Carl. I am a 4-wing 3 or 5, primarily 4-wing 5. And this is like my worst nightmare, talking about myself on my platform. In a good way, though, because you guys are awesome. So I play instruments and I sing and I write music and I perform live on the daily and tour the country as my livelihood and as my career. And luckily, I get to be friends with you guys. We get to talk about music together. So here we are. I have a lot of nervous tics that are starting to arise as I'm communicating.
Like making a mustache out of your hair.
That's okay. Because
so I apologize for that. I'm gonna reel it in now. I play a few different instruments, and yeah, I love leading worship as well. I currently don't do that so much anymore, but I write music all the time, and that's my life. That's what I do.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Taylor, for being here.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, all right, Forrest, why don't you tell us about your type or just introduce your type and tell us a little about Forrest?
Yeah. So my name is Forrest Hartman. I am a type 7. And I read up a lot on the 7, and there's a few different things that I agree with. There are a few things that I kind of look at and I'm like, I don't know, but there's definitely a contrast. I do see myself a little bit as a 3 and as a 7, and so I kind of look at both of those and kind of take from whichever ones I sort of agree with, but mainly I think a 7 is where I land on the scale. But I'm the band director over at a secondary school in Port Richey. I studied music at USF and music education, and I also was a worship leader for a couple of years. I started in the church when I was like 13 or 14, playing with different bands, playing with different groups, and then eventually led with Marina in Dunedin for a while, and then took that over and did that for about a year or two, and played individually, did solo gigs in college and stuff like that. And so I'm classically trained, and also YouTube was a great thing growing up as well. So I really had an opportunity to kind of self-teach. But yeah, I mean, I think for me, like my biggest thing was teaching. So that's where I'm at right now. And I haven't done a solo gig in probably a year. And so it's, if I were to have to do something like that, my hand would probably fall off, but it'd be fun either way.
You'd be so great.
Right.
Well,
I
thank you.
would leave and be like, ah.
Thank you guys so much for being here and just willing to chat and talk about all this amazing stuff. So I have a couple questions for us to just start and dig in, and just, feel free to chat. And it's just kind of like an interview, but a conversation. So is there anything in particular, and we'll just go around the room, is there anything in particular that made it, when you were learning about the Enneagram, when you were learning about your type, what was that one thing was there something that like clicked and you're like, oh, this is my number? Or was it something that was more of a slow realization? And anyone can go first, whoever has something that maybe pops up first. Does that make sense, that question?
Yeah,
Something that
I'll go first.
Yeah, sure.
When I thought I was a 9, I was reading some things about the 9, and it just didn't resonate with me. And then I learned about the 3, and I learned what the core value, is that what you call it, Benji, of the 3 is. And so the 3 really wants to feel value and purpose, and they want to feel like they're productive, and like they want to have value in the world. So when I saw that, I was like, I think that resonates with me a lot, because I realize when I'm waking up in the morning, my first thought is, what am I going to do today to feel like I'm accomplishing something? Or if I have something really productive lined up, I'm really excited about it. So that really resonated with me, and I just realized, I think that's my core value right there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And that's so good. Just recognizing exactly, that's such a big thing, especially when some people are like, am I this, am I that? Whatever that thing is, it really, that key motivation, that core motivation, what really kind of hits home is a really great indication of what that is. All right, who wants to go next? That moment that thing that you're like, oh, this is my number, this is my type.
We're like waiting to see who's gonna go first. Like,
you go for it,
who's
dude.
Gonna do it? I think for me, and I talked to you guys briefly about this before, is the idea that 7s cope with anxiety and stuff by staying busy. And I remember when I was in college, doing 18 credits a semester, constantly in the practice room, constantly, doing fraternity things, doing school things, doing extracurricular things. I was always busy. I never had time to really like sit down and relax and think. And then when I graduated and life completely like came to a grinding halt, and I was, job hunting and going back home to be with my parents until I could get my own place. It was like I was, all of a sudden I was now stuck with all these things, because I didn't have a set schedule anymore and have anything to stay busy. And I suddenly found myself like, where's all this anxiety coming from? Where's all this, like, not depression, but where's all this like uncertainty coming from? What, like when you wake up and there's no like set agenda, for me, that's always like a panic. Like, another example was before we went into distance learning, and when the world was sort of uncertain about what was happening, we went through another week of spring break. And I remember that on that second week of spring break, by day 2, I was like, okay, I need to figure something out. I need to set a schedule. I need to set a routine. I need something, because if I don't, like, you just kind of sit and kind of wallow in that. So when I read about that as being a weakness of the 7, as like a problem that we have, I was like, oh my gosh, like that makes so much sense compared to me like thinking it was a plethora of other issues. And I was like, oh, okay, I kind of get that,
Nice. Wow. Yeah, that's very 7-ish. I mean, that's a generalization, but just that the world has stopped. The world can't stop. The world must continue.
Right.
I need to be doing something,
Exactly.
Awesome. Taylor, anything moment that like, whoa, or thing that's like, yep, that's me.
I don't know if I had any like major aha moments, but I do know that what kind of solidified stuff for me about discovering that I was probably a 4 was when I read the healthy average and like unhealthy levels of each number. And I was going through such a really difficult season at the time, and I was functioning on level, like the last 3 levels, like the unhealthiest levels was like how I was living every day. And I lived so much in the past. So I was reliving all of like past mistakes and past wrongs, and everything made me like super morbid, and like I had a lot of self-hatred and depression and stuff. And it's like no matter what I did, everything came back to that. Like I filtered the world through that. And I was like, I don't hate my life and my people around me really, but I feel like I do. And I want to understand that so I can navigate that better. I wanted to get out of that. And I'd done years of counseling. I'd done all kinds of stuff. So I had some self-awareness there that I knew I was not functioning in a healthy way. But when I went through all of the like healthy, average, unhealthy levels of the numbers, that one resounded the loudest to me. And I was like, I'm a 4. It was kind of terrifying. And then I was like, how dare they define me? I am a unicorn. There's someone like me. It's very 4 of me.
Also screaming proof. Yeah.
Yes.
And just so everyone knows, the levels of healthy and unhealthy, there is a really great resource online called Enneagram Institute, and those different levels can be found there. Also, for this, we'll kind of be, this is just for the audience, we'll be talking kind of like the assumption that you kind of have an idea of these types. And if you're not familiar with them, I definitely want to encourage you to check out Enneagram Institute, look up the different numbers, and we can chat about that later if you need resources for that. But that's great. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, everybody. So quick question. How does being your type influence or show in what you do in your career in music, whether that's interacting with people, whether that's, you know what I'm trying to say, the music, what you're pouring into your songs and your art? How does your type interact with what you do as a musician? I see that hand.
I was literally just thinking about this as soon as you brought it up. When I was a kid, I was playing cornet and learning cornet or trumpet when I was like 10 or 11. And I remember like being decent enough to play on the platform with the other players during church, because the church I grew up in the Salvation Army, a lot of their music is centered around the brass bands. And so I would be like second cornet. I'd be so close to being first cornet. And then I would get to first cornet and be like, okay, I did the cornet thing. Now I want to move on to alto horn. Okay, I did the alto horn thing. I was able to do that. Now I want to go to tuba. And I would never truly like master one thing. And I started to do that when I went to college and I was playing acoustic. And then I'm like, oh, I'm playing acoustic, but I should learn drum set, because all musicians should learn drum set, And so I would transition to drum set, and then I would transition to keys. Sam Smith plays keyboard, and Sam Smith's really famous and he's a great singer. I should try and learn keys, or like Bon Iver, like other artists like that. And as I'm reading more about sevens and understanding where sevens come from, I'm seeing all this pop out at me as just like you are a 7 because you can't stay in one place. Like you are a master of none. You just keep hopping around. And when I was reading online, the website you're referring to, and the article they have on, and the write-up they have on sevens, it talks about how we try and find the thing we want to do, the thing we like, but while we do that, we miss the thing we should be doing. And it's like, I see that in myself so much, because even when I was in college, when I was studying trumpet, I would be playing trumpet, but then I would go up to a practice room and play a drum set or play guitar or do something like I wouldn't solely focus on that one primary objective. And so like now that I understand what a 7 is, I'm reading this and I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes sense. It adds up for me,
Yeah. And real quick, because I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the show. For the viewers out there that are wondering what's going on. So for a long time, for a while, I guess, we were all convinced, or Forrest was a self-professed 2 on the Enneagram. So it was intriguing because I thought, okay, we're going to talk about, and I'll talk more about this later, the heart center of intelligence, 2, 3, and 4, all feelings and shame and sorrow. And then as we got closer to this broadcast, Forrest had a really amazing epiphany and said, hey, by the way, I'm not a 2, I'm a 7. And I'll be honest, and I say this with all love and respect, I was not extremely surprised by that information. However, it's kind of a little twist, I guess you'd say, in this this little feature, because for those of you that were like, well, where's the 2? So yeah, so we have a
Sorry,
7.
guys.
Hey, you know what? That keeps
It's
things
like those
Keep it
BuzzFeed.
real.
It's like the BuzzFeed quizzes that you take, and you're like, I swear I'm a mermaid, and I'm not a, you know, whatever. And then you take it again, and you're like, oh, I guess I am a mermaid, and it's just
yeah, similar,
crazy.
but
Yeah,
similar.
not quite, but you know.
Good. So good. Someone else, you know, how does your type influence your art, your music, what you do as a career? Yeah.
Taylor?
Okay, I'll go. She told me to go. Yes, ma'am. So I think that I'm just going to answer the best way that I can. And if it matches up with my number, that's pretty rad. So I try to filter, not super intentionally, but what always ends up happening usually with the songs that I write is they have like their whole intention is kind of to shift people's perspective to like things that are more hopeful. Even if I'm writing about a dark subject, I try to have like an air of hopeful intuition a little bit, because I feel like when I'm functioning at a healthy level, I'm really self-aware and really intuitive with people. And I like to just get to the nitty-gritty of like what is actually the matter in a situation and what is actually like, what is the area of poison? What is the area of abuse in a person or something, something like the root of an issue. And that's what I try to tackle. And then when I found it and like have spearheaded it, I try to shift the perspective of it to something honest and truthful and something that brings life to a situation rather than like death. Because I think it's because I know that I have a tendency to look at everything as awful. Like it's really easy for me to look at the world and say everything is terrible, and look at my life and say like everything is awful and just point out all the negativity. But it's like a really rewarding effort to look at the positive and to find the gold in a situation. So that's a big, when I know when I'm writing songs and when that is like the gold that I find in songwriting, that I think I'm functioning at my healthiest as a creative person and as a musician. Because I think everyone can write sad music that makes everyone feel crappy, and there's a time and a place for that, but I would rather write stuff that is kind of like makes it test your heart a little bit, and then at the end of it you're like, oh my gosh, I love life and I love people and I want to improve my way of living in a way that benefits humanity. Like that's the bigger picture for me, and I think that has a lot to do with a 4 when they are like functioning at their healthiest. I may not always be there, but I try to have my songwriting and my performances and stuff to be geared towards that, to be sensitive to where people are at and meet them there, kind of meet them in the middle and be like, it's okay that your life is hard right now. It's okay that the world is crumbling. Like it's a reality, but here's how we can like work through that. Here's how you can survive through that. Here's how you can find the positive in that. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And just, you know, something I love about the 4, what I love about 4s is like you value authenticity and the reality of something, but you also value beautiful things.
Yes.
So, but it's not this cherry coated, you know, candy coated, you know what I'm saying? It's not this rose colored glasses. Everything's perfect. It's gonna be fine. You know, it's very like, this is dark and awful, but let's look for some beauty in this mess.
Yes.
And that's what I love. That's what I love about 4.
That's cool.
So.
Nice.
All right, Marina.
All right. So I'm just thinking how I can, you know, pin it down, because there's so much for me.
Sure.
Because being a musician, and especially for a 3, being a musician is like everything, you know, because your career and yourself is very like connected. It's hard for a 3 to separate those.
Right.
So that's what I've learned, you know, from studying the Enneagram, is how is Marina a person without music? You know, if music wasn't there, who is Marina? So so that's like a hard question, because music is my life, you know. But just thinking about some of the characteristics of a three can adapt to any situation, and do what is needed for that situation to be productive, or to reach the goal. So as a musician, it's hard for me to commit to one specific style of music. I love jazz, I love pop, I love rock. Today I may be like Marina, the rock and roll star, and then tomorrow I'm gonna be like, hey Eric, let's go play at a little jazz club, you know. I can adapt to many different situations and feel myself in all of them. So that's you know, the good side of that, and there's a bad side to that too. But and another thing about the three, I think, is we can see, we do have a vision, like the four, like Taylor says, of the future. Like we know what needs to be done to reach a goal. Like our focus is future oriented, like our vision, and we have a vision for everything. So if something doesn't have a goal for us, it's hard to relate to it, and it's hard to give ourselves to that, you know. Like if there's no goal there, you're like for example, Uno, the game Uno. I hate playing that game because it's just like it's all by chance, you know. Like, what is the goal here, and what's the value?
No strategy.
What's the value in me doing this? You know, what am I learning from this? What's the productivity of this? So anyway, coming back to music, I do feel that it has helped me being in situations where I need to lead a band, where we need to accomplish things and stuff like that. So having that forward vision, and having, you know, a business to be able to, a music school to be able to see what we need to accomplish in the future and how to get there. Being a three is helpful with that stuff. So
yeah, that's cool. Really good. That's great. Thank you guys so much for sharing. What's, and actually I don't have this question written down, but it just kind of popped into my mind, and I'm really, and some of you might have an idea, and maybe if you don't, that's totally fine. And if you do, just jump right in. I know that, as you know, I'm an Enneagram 9, and there's a lot of stereotypes about nines. Well, about every number, there's a lot of stereotypes, and I won't go into it because this isn't about me, but some of those stereotypes bother me. Some of them are funny, especially when they're from same people of your type, like, yeah, you know. But then when other people, you know, someone else is talking about your type, and they're making a generalization, sometimes it can be hurtful, or even can upset you, or at least make you roll your eyes, if nothing else. Is there something about your type that someone has said, or that maybe you've seen on one of these Enneagram accounts, or, you know, that maybe in conversation that someone said generally, like, you know, 4s are always sad, or 3s don't really care about other people, you know, things like that. And you guys are like, what? Do people say that? But is there anything that people say that really kind of bothers you, that, you know? Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what Joe would say, because I feel as though my husband is good at being like, that was such a 4 thing of you to do. And it's usually because I'm self-absorbed. I'm a little self-absorbed. It's not always a positive. I'm not always like, I'm so rad. It's usually like, why? It's still a self-absorption thing. And I don't like when people say, well, 4s are so self-absorbed. I know it's stereotypical. Unfortunately, it's a little bit true for me sometimes, but I don't like when people say it.
Right. And that's probably why some of those things hurt, is because it is true.
And when they say that you think there's no one like you think you're the only one. I have a few friends that are like hardcore 4s, and we're like, I'm only okay that you're a 4 because you're my best friend. But if you weren't my best friend, I'd be a little mad about it.
I'm the only 4. No one else can be a 4.
It's so silly. It's not like, you know, it's not because I'm a bad person. It's just this weird, the way my brain processes things. I swear it's strange.
Hey, that's just how it is. And what the neat thing about this, and this is an Enneagram generalization, but I think it's so hard to just sometimes think that everybody thinks the same way as you do, but that's the uniqueness of it, is it's 9 different versions of coming from the same thing at a totally different perspective.
Yeah, it's awesome.
A totally different reality. So, you know, when people say things like that, you know, they're seeing things that is just part of your reality. But when you say it out loud, you're like, oh, yeah. Makes you feel a little crazy or insecure about any type. Great. So I want to chat real quick about triads. So, and I'll keep that really simple. So, you know, specifically with Taylor and Marina, you know, a 3 and a 4, you two are in what they call the hearts triad, meaning you process a lot of the way of what you do through your emotions, which actually, and not to get confusing, can be strange for a 3 because you're what they call one of those revolutionary types where even though you're in the middle of the hearts triad, you're getting all the feels, you kind of like repress it and stuff it, and you don't want to think about it because then you'd have to deal with it. But at some point those catch up with you. So
Yes.
you know, not taking your thunder, but I just thought I'd throw that out there. So 3s and 4s, you're both in the middle. So talk about feelings, talk about living life by thinking with your feelings, or just, you know. So.
Okay. Well, for a 3, that is hard to do, to talk about your feelings. What I've learned is a 3 is in the middle. So they're between the 2 and the 4, which are emotionally charged. So the 3 suppresses all that because they can see that, you know, they can see that it's not helpful. So
pragmatic response.
Right. So the 3 suppresses that so they can deal with the matters at hand without that getting in the way. So that can be a good thing in the moment, and it can be a really bad thing if you don't realize that and life catches up with you and you're like, where did all these feelings come from? And you know, like and it just kind of comes as a wave at you, which happened in my life, you know. And you're like, wait, I didn't even know I felt like that, you know. And then you start digging deeper and there's just layers and layers of feelings that you never dealt with. But it really has affected your life because you are at the heart center and you are driven by that. So you're kind of working against yourself as a 3, I feel like. So that's the challenge with feelings for me.
Nice.
Taylor, feelings.
Yeah, that's so interesting, Marina.
Yeah.
I guess I'm a constant ball of emotions always. Great. And my husband is a 2, and so our home is just
lots of feelings.
All the feelings all the time. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say.
No, that's good. Yeah.
I process almost everything through my emotions first, and then I have to reel it in. And before I react to stuff, I have to actually, internally, I have to separate all the emotions I just felt and look at the logic of the situation. I rarely do that, but luckily I'm not always around human beings to have big emotional reactions because I'm such an introvert. So not a lot of people all the time, but I do have a lot of time to think about my emotions before I interact with human beings. If I was constantly around people, I probably would have a lot more situations where I crashed and burned and had to learn to be more 3-like. But I don't know. Here we are. Here's all the emotions all the time internally. It's great.
Yeah, that's so good. And that's I feel like that's, you know, a sign for both of you. Those are signs of maturity. If you're choosing, okay, I need to deal with these emotions, and you're choosing, this is what I feel. What do I do? What am I going to do with these feelings? All right, I'm going to set them over here. Let me think about this, or let me process these emotions and think about how I feel about them. That's a sign of maturity. And but it's also something that's kind of like our faith. It's an ongoing thing that doesn't really stop. We're always working at it. We're always thinking about it. And at some point it probably gets easy. But it's, you know, but yeah, sometimes it's a struggle to just, but it's a sign of maturity. Yeah. I'm carrying on.
I love it.
Yeah.
So Forrest, this is kind of a question for Forrest and Marina. So actually, no, I'm going to back up a little bit. Sorry. So, you know, 3s and 4s are in the middle of their heart triad. Okay. So Forrest, you're in what they call the head triad. So you know, the way you process life, 7s, the way 7s process life, because everybody's different. No, you know, the types are archetypes, you know, everyone's got a different variation of that, you know, but all that to say, so 7s are in what they call the thinking head triad. Okay. And you are, 7s process everything mostly through logic, reason, what's coming at me. But that's also, you're also part of what they call the fear triad. Like that's the same thing. 5, 6s, and 7s are, you know, they struggle with fear and anxiety, but also, and they think everything through their head. So if either of those things kind of jump out at you, are you able to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So
you mentioned
just
that a
like,
little earlier about anxiety. So that's, you kind of
oh,
covered that. But as,
yeah.
you know, as far about thinking, like talk about like, is your emotions a big, like when does your emotions come into play, if and when they do? I mean,
No,
of course,
perfect.
everyone's
Yeah.
emotional,
So my fiance actually brought this up to me recently and told me, and I kind of knew this, but I didn't really want to admit it to myself. But what I actually tend to do is if something goes awry or if something happens, I try not to react right away because I don't want to react on a whim or on a drop of a hat, if you will. I want to take a second to think about what I'm going to do and then respond. And we've recently become dog parents in the last 6 months, and so there's been a lot of trial and error with having a dog, and a lot of accidents and a lot of training and all that stuff. So there's been a lot of times where I'll see something and I'll be like, and I'll process it, and then I'll be like, it's just this. I just go up, take care of it, discipline, move on. And then there are times where like it all seems to like fill, like just like a meter, until eventually I get to the top, and then I'm just like, and I just like erupt in this. And it's more of a frustration of the situation, and I'll erupt in this frustration of the situation. And my fiance sometimes will just look at me and be like, I'm gonna leave you alone for a couple minutes. And I'll be like, all right, no problem. So it's like, it's one of those things where it's either one side of the spectrum or the other. It's either I take the situation, the thing happens, I process it, and then I go, oh, no big deal, take care of it. Or things pile up, and then all of a sudden, just randomly, I'll just be like, the door's not closed, and this upsets me today, and then I get upset about it. Like, so it's like, it's really weird, and it's actually something that Alex brought up to me recently, and so I've been actually actively thinking about that as well. So imagine thinking about how you're going to react to something, thinking about the right way to react to it, and then thinking about, I don't want to react like I did last time because that wasn't good, you know.
Yeah.
So there's like all these things, and she also brought up to me another thing, and this is, you know, something that we've learned in our relationship, that she'll say something to me and then I won't respond right away. Like I'll take like 2 or 3 seconds to think about what she said. And then sometimes when that happens, I'll think about what she said, but then forget to respond. And so like, she'll do like the nudge, like, hey, you know, I asked you something, or like that. And I'll do that. And we had a conversation recently where I was like, hey, if I don't respond to you in like 2 or 3 seconds, I swear I'm not ignoring you. Just like get my attention again and make sure that I'm actively, you know, reacting and responding. And so like, that's something that I've noticed in my life, in my personal, you know, sort of my relationship and me as a human being, is that I really try to take things and process things, because I want to be intentional about what I have to say or what I do.
Yeah.
I don't want to react right away to something and then react the wrong way and then have to double back and be like, oh no, I totally didn't mean to do it like that, or I didn't mean to do to respond that way. So that's kind of how I think about that. I know that was a lot, but that's kind of like how I think about
really
that.
Great. And real quick, while we're talking about that, so like technically, and this is a technical thing, but you know, 7s are also in that, are like 3s and 8s, where they are what they call, they're repressed from their feelings. So, do you feel like you feel easily? Do you feel like, you are quick to, other than those moments you're talking about with anger, like, do you feel like you're quick to just get emotional or to just share people how you're feeling? I'm happy, yeah. I'm sad.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's been times where, especially with music is that connection for me. And there's been times where I've been in a movie theater and we'll be watching trailers before the movie, and the score is just right and the scene is just right and the thing is happening, and then the score hits the scene and I'm just like, what's going on? Like, I have this is a movie trailer. There's nothing even compelling happening. I remember the first time that happened to me, X-Men Days of Future Past. They had this like super compelling score, and it was like, oh my gosh, Professor X, his character was like saying something really compelling, and it was just reaching this climax, this big build. And I remember like sitting there crying in the trailer for this movie, and my buddy actually looked at me and was like, "Are you serious right now?" And it was like one of those moments where I had to be like, what am I doing? What's happening? So it's musically like that will hit me, and it's really strange because like this is kind of personal, kind of deep, but with like death, I've had a few family members pass away, and I didn't like feel that sense of grief that I think a lot of people feel. Everyone grieves differently, but I didn't feel that sense of grief of dread or anything. And I actually, one of the deaths I processed by creating like an instrumental piece and using my my late grandmother's voicemail that she sent me. I used it in the song and wrote a song like around that. And I remember just kind of like processing it and feeling like, oh, okay, like this is how I can process through that. So I think as a musician, and I think musically, processing emotion happens a lot for me through the arts and through music. So
music's like your gateway to accessing your emotions.
I guess, yeah, it'd be like the dam, if you will,
Yeah, that is amazing. I love that. Wow. That's like perfect. So Taylor, you actually, yeah. So Taylor, so I want to talk a little bit about like, where you guys kind of reside in as far as like what they call orientation to time. So like past, present, future, which, there are generalizations that certain types only think about this or only think about this. And that's not necessarily the case. But I do just want to chat about that for a second and see what your take is on that. And I know we've had conversations about this before, but 9s, 5s, and 4s are in what they call the withdrawn stance. And your orientation to time, or rather you are tethered to, so to speak. It's not like you never think about the future because you're mature 4, you make goals, you plan, you're here right now, you know what's going on. But you have a tendency you have a tendency to easily like look behind you and sit there and think about it. And so maybe can you chat about that for a little bit?
Sure. I mean, I guess the main thing I'll say is you're correct. I live in the past mentally. Just most of my day is reliving not just like past memories and things that happened years, weeks, months ago, but even just the past week. What could I have done differently or better, and how did so much of my career is up in the air right now. As musicians, we can all kind of understand everything has been kind of turned upside down. So all I'm doing, often what I find myself doing now, is analyzing all the decisions I've made in my career in the past 4 years. Did I have done things different that put me in a better place now? And so what I should be doing is being grateful for the time in the present and then preparing for the future. And I'm doing that a little bit. Like each day I get better at it, but my natural lean is to analyze the past, is to analyze what could I have done differently. And then if, depending on how sad I'm feeling that day, I'll look back on the past and then be super bummed out that I didn't do things an alternate way.
Oh, no.
And then everything is my fault. But sometimes it's actually really good to be able to do that. I try to use it in a good way. If I'm having a healthy like week or day or a few hours, I can learn from the good and the bad and all the decisions and stuff, because you do have to kind of take inventory of yourself, especially when you own a business. You should learn from your mistakes and stuff. So that comes in handy right now. It's especially comes in handy, even though I have to learn to balance that so I don't dwell in the sadness. But I do have to analyze and take inventory a little bit of the past 3 or 4 years so that I can make better decisions in the future. But yeah, it's a reality for me. That's my natural lean to be like, but remember that one time when we were at that place and that person looked at me that way, and like, I just really think they hate me forever. Like, these are things that go through my head, and I should just be enjoying like the dinner I'm having with somebody across from me, and like, you know, looking at my calendar and being excited for the next things I have coming up. But I don't know. There you go.
But I love that you said that you are so right, that there is not, like, the past isn't all bad. I think a lot of people will have us think, don't look to the past is bad. And it's easy to get stuck there, but there are good and bad things.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of wisdom in the past, you know? So that's good. So question. So what allows you, what's a practice or a thought or an action that allows you to kind of, oh, I'm here, like to be in the now, or to think about, what am I going to do next week? Is there something that you do?
Yes. And this is going to sound like I'm plugging Grow Life, or like life coaching is the way to go. But for me, life coaching is huge, because when it doesn't always have to be Joe, but I'm married to him and he is a life coach. So he often gives me advice, whether I want it or not. But even if I reach out to Cinda or to you or to some friends of mine who maybe are counselors or whatever, that is what helps me the most. I need somebody from the outside to help me shift my perspective, even if I'm just remembering things that someone has said to me. Like, it kind of works out that way. If I'm remembering something a coach said to me in the past, it'll actually help me. It'll help bring me into being hopeful.
Brilliant.
Hey, I didn't even plan that. But it's usually what it is. It's me having a stark, like, back to reality conversation with somebody. And that helps me like become hopeful about and like make plans and look to the future. It's not, I don't often do that by myself. I mean, I've developed some tools, like I'll sit down with a planner or something like that and maybe draw out a list of things to do for the next month or something. And like the easiest steps I can take that will help me not lose my mind. That kind of helps ground me a little bit, but usually it's just a really healthy conversation with somebody who has the ability to be where I want to be. And I think that's why a lot of people look for a life coach. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a life coach, so I don't know. But when I'm looking for someone to advise, I'm like, are you someone who is living an example of where I need help right now? Because that's what I want to talk to. And if I reach out to those people, if I find myself dwelling in crazy land, I'm like, all right, y'all, you need to help a sister out. Like, I need some advice. And that's usually what helps me. So
that's awesome. So that being said, Marina and Forrest, you guys, 3s and 7s, typically have a tendency, which you both have kind of alluded to already, of kind of thinking about the future. You know, you can sit in the now, you know, you can think about the future. So is it difficult for you guys to think about what happened yesterday or last week, or are you at a level of maturity where it's like, I can access the past, or, you know, or, oh, I'm there all the time, or, you know, is that something that's easy for you, or are you just always like, nope, what we're thinking?
I will say that it doesn't come naturally to think of the past. And I don't know if that is because sometimes when I think of the past, I remember the bad things. So I'm trying not to feel those things. So I'm not thinking about the past, or I'm thinking about, like Taylor said, like that one time I said something to somebody and they took it the wrong way. I wish I could go back and, you know, explain myself a little better, or like I'm just thinking of like what was image concern, I guess. Like how did they perceive me? Like, you know, and it's really hard to think about those things. Like it's not a good feeling, you know. So I don't typically think of the past. I'm more vision oriented. Like something in the future gets me excited. It gets me going. Like, and it's hard.
Expectation.
Yeah, I like to have something good lined up, and I like to be working on something that's going to have an awesome goal. And so, like, also being in the present is a little bit hard, I think, because of that feeling thing. Like, I could be having an awesome time. And then I have to remind myself, hey, this is awesome, you know, like, enjoy it right now. This is happening, you know. And honestly, I have like recently kind of come to really enjoy the present moment and like realizing, hey, this is what you've been working for. This is happening right now, you know. So yeah, it takes a while to get there, but when you look to the past in a good way and a healthy way, for me, is to remember all the good things that happened. One of my favorite hymns is "Great is Thy Faithfulness," just to see, hey, you know, God hasn't let you down yet. Like in the past, can you see any time that you were, you know, left without? And then you can look at that and see, wow, okay, the past is awesome, you know. It's not just, you know, it's not just things that are lost, you know.
Yes.
So yeah,
that's so good. Yeah, you're so right. Forrest, what about you?
Yeah, I completely agree with Marina. When it comes to the past, I think when we think of the past, we think of mistakes and we think of the shortcomings and like where we fell short. And I think what's cool about the future is you get another shot to wake up tomorrow and what can I do today to better myself from yesterday? What can I do today that can make me happier than I was yesterday? What can I do? You know, what can I do, or tomorrow rather? What can I do in the future that will set me up for more success and more enjoyment? And it's funny because like I the more Marina was talking about like how, you know, she doesn't really dwell in the past and doesn't really think about the past. Like I can't remember the last time I thought about something that happened a while ago. Like I don't know if I could, I like, it's weird. Like like even like I think now the mindset, especially with us all being at the shelter in place and us, you know, having limitations on what we can do, I think now I'm looking forward more so towards, okay, what can I do tomorrow that will benefit me as a human being, but will also make me happy and will also kind of give me something to kind of to latch onto. And so like that's kind of where I'm at now. And so like the idea of looking back at things, like it's already happened, it's already done. Even one of the things that I could think of is my junior recital in college. I did my junior recital in college. I played through some pieces, and it was a little concert that we had. And then, you know, once you do that, you move on into your internship. I've yet to watch that video of me performing in my junior recital. it's one of those things that like, even like past gigs when I would play at different places, when I would lead at church and stuff, like I would do the thing would happen. And then after the thing happened, people would be like, oh, did you want to watch this or look at this? I'd be like, no, I mean, it happened.
Over.
We did it. Now I can go on to the next thing. So like I super relate to, you know, what Marina's saying in regards to just kind of the constant push, that constant, you know, I need to keep moving forward, because I think it relates back to sevens needing to constantly go. If we stop and think about what we did, you know, 5 minutes ago, we're not moving forward. And if that's the case, then we're not really locked into that sort of mindset. So, you know, it's weird because us talking about it now has me thinking about it. and so having the conversation is like, yeah, I don't really look back at things. Maybe a learning experience, maybe like, oh, that stove was hot, I probably shouldn't touch that again because I burned myself last week. Like simple things, like simple like human things like that. in regards to like emotional things, events in life, stuff like that. Yeah, it's tough. It's not something that I actively,
Yeah. I
engage.
just, when you said that, I had this image of you at a hot stove, like something's familiar here.
Yeah.
What
It's like,
is it?
yeah.
I don't know. Oh well.
Why is it?
Yeah.
Why is that glowing red? Usually it's just like dark.
Yeah.
Weird.
This is amazing. Well,
Well,
guys, no, go ahead.
I'm curious, because obviously, I guess in the Enneagram there is room for people who actually find comfort in the past, right?
Mm,
So I would love to like hear from somebody,
yes.
sometime. How does that work for you?
Right.
So
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to we don't have a whole lot of time left.
I
but
know,
I will chat about it real quick because you guys are talking about that. And, nines are also in the withdrawn stance and we live in the past, but the past is just one of the happiest places for me because I think about, and I know everyone had a different upbringing and stuff, but I think about when I was little and I think about, that restaurant, I love that restaurant. I can't believe they went out of business. And I think about, remember how things used to be in the world, 3 years ago, things were so great. I didn't need a different adapter for my computer. And, like that's how my mind works. Or it's like,
They got rid of headphone
remember,
jacks.
look, guys, remember 3 years ago when, we did this, that was so fun. And someone's like, I don't even remember that happened. So, I mean, the past, just like Taylor said, there's good and bad things about the past. I typically am just, I tend to be like, oh, I miss it. Like I miss it. And I also think kind of the same thing, like what happened, last week. Oh, it's been 3 weeks since, but we should chat about that. But that's definitely from my perspective.
it's interesting.
The
internet wants to know, Benji, if you have time hop, if you use time hop regularly.
I don't. I should.
Or Instagram memories. You should go back. You should go back through your archives of Instagram.
I do
stories.
that. I just
there it is.
I do that all the time.
Yeah,
I can see that.
And that's a great way for forward-thinking numbers to connect with the past. Go to your Instagram reel and be like, "Oh,
yeah,
look at that dog and that."
It brings up too many feelings.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I don't want it.
Well, it is 8:25, and I value your guys' time. Really super appreciate you being here. This has literally been so much fun, and I really appreciate it. So thank you for all of our viewers and people who have been watching. Thank you so much for being here, and for people who will check this video out later. Super appreciate it. Any questions you might have, definitely reach out to us. You can contact me at benjamin@growandflourish.com. You can also get a hold of me on Facebook or Instagram. My screen name is B8NJ9M1N. That's confusing. So I'll post that somewhere. That's write that down, everyone. And of course, you can check out Grow Life's website at growandflourish.com. So be sure to check out these amazing people and their different Facebooks and Instagrams. They're amazing, wonderful people who do lots of amazing, wonderful things around the country, and just create and bring life and wonder and magic to all that is life as we know it. So thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday night, and love you all. And let's do this again sometime.
Yeah. Part two.
Yeah.
Thanks, Benji.
You're welcome. Have a great night. And I'm going to figure out how to turn this off.
We'll just wave them out.
I think it's this button here. Bye.
Wave, smile and wave, boy. Smile and wave.
Smile away, boy.